This week's Parsha, Parshas Ki-Savo, begins with the mitzvah of Bikurim, that when we have a field, every year we need to bring from the first ripened fruit to the Beis HaMikdash, present it to the Kohen, and make the entire declaration that appears in the first psukim of this week's Parsha. In the end of last week's Parsha, we have the mitzvah of Zechiras Amalek, remembering what Amalek did to us. Zochor es asher oso lecho Amalek baderech b'tzeischem mimitzrayim. You know, Chazal always ask, Lama nismecha, why is this Parsha next to this Parsha? In other words, not only is the content of Torah that needs to be analyzed, needs to be learned, needs to be understood, but also the order of Torah is Torah that needs to be learned, and therefore Chazal asks, Lama nismecha. So what's the connection between the mitzvah of remembering Amalek that appears in the end of last week's Parsha, in the end of Parshas Ki-Savo, and the mitzvah of Bikurim that appears in the beginning of this week's Parsha, Parshas Ki-Savo? The story of Amalek appears in the end of Parshas B'Shalach, and the context is very interesting. In the end of Parshas B'Shalach, it says, Vayikro Shem Hamokoim Hahu Maso Umeriva Al Riv B'nei Yisrael Va'al Nasoisom Es Hashem Leimoir Hayesh Hashem B'kirbeinu Im Oyin. He called the place Masa and Meriva because of the contention of the Bnei Yisrael and because of their test of Hashem, saying, is Hashem in our midst or is he not? The next pasuk says, Vayovoy Amalek Vayilochem im Bnei Yisrael Berefidim. Amalek came and battled the Bnei Yisrael in the place called Refidim. Is there a connection between these two psukim? What's the flow? So Rashi already says, Samach Parsha zu lemikra zeh. The Torah juxtaposed this passage that deals with Amalek's attack against the Jews with the preceding verse, is Hashem in our midst or is he not? Why? Loimar, to say, says Rashi, Tomid ani beinechem umezumon l'chol tzorchechem. I'm always among you and ready to provide you with all your needs. Va'atem oimrim hayesh Hashem b'kirbeinu im oyin. And you question whether I'm amongst you, I'm in your midst, or I'm not. Chayechem, I swear by your life, shehakelev bo, that the dog, referring to Amalek, will come v'noishech eschem, and will bite you. V'atem tzoyakim li, and you'll cry out to me. V'seidu, then you will know heichon ani, where I am. And Rashi adds, moshol la'odom shehirkiv b'noy al kseifoy v'yotzol aderech. This can be compared to a person who puts his son on his shoulder and went out on a journey. Hoyo haben roye chayfetz v'oimer abo tul chayfetz ze v'tein li. The son saw an object and he said to his father, please take that object and give it to me. V'chein b'shniyo. So it happened the second time. V'chein b'shlishis. So it happened the third time. And then Pogu ba'adam echad, they stumbled upon a person. So the son, sitting on his father's shoulder, says to that person, Ra'iso es Abba? Did you by any chance see my father? So his father said to him, Omaloi Oviv Eincho Yoidea Heichon Ani, you don't know where I am. He threw his son off his shoulder, and a dog came and bit him. So Amalek comes because of our lack of awareness of the Rabbeinu Shalom's presence in our life. Amalek comes because of our lack of gratitude. Amalek comes because we're saying Hayesh Hashem Bekirbeinu Im Oyin, is Hashem in our midst or is he not? What is Bikurim about? It says Uvoso El Hakoyein Asher Yiyeh Bayom Imoheim V'omarto Elov Zokt Rashi V'omarto Elov, you shall say to the Kohen She'eincho Kofui Toivo, you should say to him that you're not ungrateful. As the Sefer HaChinuch in the Mitzvah 606 says, Mishorshe HaMitzvah, the roots of this mitzvah of Bikurim, Lefisha Ha'odom Mo'oirer Machshevoisov, a person awakens his thoughts, Umitzayer Bilavovoy Ha'emes, and he pictures the truth in his mind, Bekoyach Divrei Piv, by verbalizing things, by talking them out. Valkain, and therefore, Beheitiv Elov Hashem Yizborech, when Hashem is kind to him, Ubevorcho Yoisoi, and when he blesses him, Vesad Mosoi, and his land, Lasois Peirois, to produce fruit, Vezocho Lahaviom Lebeis Eloikeinu, and he merited to bring those fruits to the Beis HaMikdash. Ro'ui lanu la'oirer libeinu b'divrei fihu. So it's appropriate that we talk it out, and we think it out, and we express our thankfulness and gratitude to the Rabbeinu Shalom. As we do in this parsha, when we bring the Bikurim, we thank Hashem for everything He did to us from early on until this point that we have these peiros, we have the fruit. So the parsha of Bikurim is actually an expression of gratitude and thankfulness to the Rabbeinu Shalom, and it serves to counterbalance the Hayesh Hashem Bekirbeinu Im Oyin, the questioning whether or not Hashem is in our midst, which is what brought on Amalek. So it's no wonder that the parsha of Bikurim in the beginning of Ki-Savo follows the mitzvah of Zochoir es asher oso lecho Amalek that appears in the end of Parshas Ki-Savo, because when we remember Amalek, we remember not only what Amalek did to us, we remember why Amalek came. Amalek came because of the sin of questioning whether Hashem is in our midst. And the way we correct that sin is by bringing the Bikurim to the Beis HaMikdash and making the declaration of thankfulness to the Rabbeinu Shalom. Rashi says, V'amarto Elov, you shall say to him, you shall say to the Kohen, She'eincho kofui toiv, that you're not ungrateful. Kind of a strange expression. Why don't we say, you say to him that you are grateful? It would seem that the default position is ungratefulness. Ungratefulness. A person, by definition, is considered not to be grateful. And bringing the Bikurim is a way of overcoming that. Overcoming the not being grateful. And why is that? You know, the Pasuk says, Yetzer leiv ha'odom ra mina urov. That man is evil from his youth. Ne'urov. But the Gemara darshans that Ne'urov is mishenin ar lotzeis. The word nar not only means youth, it means to shake off something, is lena'er. And the Gemara says Mina Urov is from the time that the baby pushes his way out of his mother's womb. From that point on, Yetzer Leiv Ha'odom is Ra. There's an evil dimension to the human being, which means that when that baby wants to push his way out, what is that about? That's about being independent. He has everything. He has everything, but he wants to go out on his own. So, man wants to be independent. Being thankful undermines a person's sense of independence because he needs to realize that he's not on his own. He needs to realize that he's indebted to his benefactor. And therefore, by nature, humans are ungrateful. And we need to get involved in bikurim, in expressing thankfulness, in order to overcome our nature of not being thankful. You know, the expression kafui toiv, which means ungrateful, lack of gratitude. But what is the word kafui? It's not koifer, not a denier of toiv. Kafui toiv, the word kafui. What does the word kafui mean? We find the word kafui in the context of kfias hamita, which means turning over, inversion, koife olav esakli. But how would that connect to the idea of being ungrateful? Kafui toiv, turning over. What am I turning over? The word koife has another meaning, and that's coercion, to be forced, like koifin ala mitzvos. So both these meanings don't seem to have any connection with the idea of not being grateful. What is the expression kafui toiv? Kafui toiv, why does that express the idea of not being grateful? The Gemara in Avodah Zorah Daf Hey Amud Aleph brings a brayse, Tonu Rabbanon, mi yitein. There's a pasuk, Parshas V'eschanon, mi yitein v'hoyo levovom ze lohem. Normally understood to mean, if only. Hashem is saying, mi yitein, if only they would have such a heart always. Amar lahem Moshe LeYisrael, Moshe said to Klal Yisrael, kfuyei toiva, b'nei kfuyei toiva. You're an ungrateful people, the offspring of an ungrateful ancestor. Why is that? Because b'shah she'omar HaKadosh Baruch Hu LeYisrael, mi yitein v'hoyo levavam ze lohem, when Hashem said, mi yitein, who shall give, that they have this heart always. Hoyo lohem loymar, they should have responded, tein ato, you shall give. In other words, the fact that Klal Yisrael didn't respond and say and pray and ask the Rabbeinu Shalom to give, that they have this heart forever, shows that they are kfuyei toiva. Rashi says kfuyei toiva, einam makirim lahachzik toiva lebaylim. They don't have a sense of being indebted to their benefactor. How does the not asking show that they are not makir lahachzik toiva lebaylim? Tosfos says, therefore they're called kfuyei toiva, because they didn't want to say tein ato, they didn't want to ask the Rabbeinu Shalom for help. Lefisha lo hoyu hoitzim lahachzik lo toiva bekach, because they didn't want to be indebted. In other words, a kafui toiv is willing to give up on the toiv, willing not to have it, as long as he shall be independent. He shouldn't become indebted. He shouldn't have to be grateful and thankful to his benefactor. So in other words, somebody that doesn't want to be a makir toiva, rather doesn't receive the toiva. And somebody like this, the receiving of the toiva is forced on him. He's kafui toiva. When you give him toiva, you give him good, it's like you're forcing him to take it because he'd rather not have it. because he rather not need to feel indebted, he rather not need to be thankful. And that's the expression kofui toiva, somebody that's not a machzik toiva, somebody that doesn't have it in him to be thankful, receives toiva in a forced way. He's as if coerced to receive the toiva. He's kofui toiva. So the V'amarta Elov, you shall say to him, we say to the Kohen, she'eincho kofui toiva, means that a Jew says, I'm willing to be indebted. I'm willing to recognize that the Rebbeinu Shel Olam is my benefactor. I'm willing to recognize that I owe him. And I'm not a kofui toiv. The Gemara continues in Avodah Zarah to explain why are we b'nei kofui toiva? Why are the Jews considered sons of offspring of kofui toiva? Because it says, V'nafsheinu kotzo belechem akloikel, that the Yidden complained about the mun. They said that we can't take this light bread anymore. And their ancestors were also kfuyei toiva, because it says ha'isha asher nosato imodi hi nosna li min ha'etz v'oichal. Adam Arishan complained. I mean, he said that, you know why I ate from the Eitz Hadas? It's the woman that you gave me. She gave me from the Eitz Hadas and I ate it. So in other words, the kafui toiv, if he already received the toiv, denies that it's toiv. Because he doesn't want to feel indebted, he talks himself into believing that it's not really good. Therefore, Yidden said, Nafshenu kotzo belechem hakloikel. That's also a form of not being makir toiv. That's why Adam Arishan says, Ha'isha asher nosato imodi hinosna li min ha'etz v'oichal. So in other words, the kafui toiv doesn't want to receive toiv, and if he received it, he finds a way to talk himself into believing that it's not really so good. Therefore, the expression hakoras hatoiv has a dual meaning. It means recognizing the fact, hakora, like mishayakir bein tchelas lelovon, recognizing that good is good, and then recognizing the one who gave you the good. The Parsha of Bikurim signs off with a pasuk, v'samachta b'chol hatoiv, and you shall be happy with all the good that Hashem gave you. Only somebody that's willing to feel indebted has the ability to recognize that good is good, because otherwise he talks himself into believing that it's not really good. So in order for one to be happy with all the good that Hashem gave him, he has to have the willingness to be a makir toiv, to be thankful for what he has. The Medrash Tanchuma in the beginning of this week's Parsha says, Ro Moshe Rabbeinu olav hasholom, Moshe Rabbeinu saw shebeis hamikdash osid leichorif, that the Beis Hamikdash is going to be destroyed. Ubikurim asurim liposek, and there won't be bikurim anymore. So Tikein Gimel Tfilos, he instituted 3 prayers every day, Shachris, Mincha, and Ma'ariv, because the Tfilah substitutes for bikurim. Now, how does Tfilah substitute for bikurim? Bikurim is about expressing our thankfulness to Hashem, but Tfilah, the main content of Tfilah is bakoshas strochim, asking Hashem for help, asking Him for atochoinen lodom das, asking Him for refuah, asking Him for borei choleinu es hashona hazois. How does that stand in the place of bikurim? But bikurim is about recognizing that Hashem is our benefactor, giving up our ego, understanding that we are not in control. And that is what tefillah is. When we ask the Rebbeinu Shel Olam for help, it's recognizing that He's the source of everything we have. As we see that tefillahs, Chazal tell us, are in the place of korbanos. Now, korbanos are korbanos that we give to the Rebbeinu Shel Olam. We sacrifice, we spend money, we sacrifice the sacrifices for the Rabbi Shalom, whereas tefillah is we're asking Him for things. How could tefillah be in the place of korbanos? But the ultimate sacrifice that man can sacrifice is his own ego. If he says, Ato choinein la'odom das, if he says, you are the one who gives man wisdom, if he says, you are the one who blesses the produce, if he says you are the one who heals the sick, then he has sacrificed his ego. That's the ultimate human sacrifice, and therefore tefillah is b'mokoim korbanos, and tefillah is b'mokoim bikurim, because hakaras hatoiv in essence means recognizing that what we have is from the Rebbeinu Shel Olam. We say mizmor lesoido hogiu laHashem kol haaretz ifdu es Hashem besimcha, because if you're thankful, you can be happy. Because if you're thankful, you recognize that what you have is good. You have the ability to recognize that what you have is good, and then you can be ifdu es Hashem besimcha, and then you reach the level of du'u, ki Hashem hu ha'elokim v'lo yanachnu amoy v'tzoyin marisoy. To him we are, his nation. Lo yanachnu, is written with a aleph. Loi with an aleph, and it's read as loi with a vav. And the Chidushi Arim says that loi with an aleph plus loi with a vav makes elul. Lo yanachnu means we are not, and lo yanachnu with a vav means to him we are. Because inasmuch as a person gets rid of his ego and he realizes that lo yanachnu, that it's not us, it's not me, I'm not in charge, I'm not in control, in that measure, he becomes lo yanachnu, he becomes the Rebbeinu Shel Olam, he connects with the Rebbeinu Shel Olam. So that's really the avodah of preparation for Rosh Hashanah, as we're going to say in the Slichas, L'cho Hashem atzdoko v'lonu boishes aponim, and then we go on and on about how Hashem created the world and how He's in control of everything, because that sense of surrender is the key to Rosh Hashanah. As the Gemara says, Kol shono sherosho b'tchiloso misasheres b'soifo, that when we make ourselves roshim, reish shin yud mem, we make ourselves poor, we understand, we empty ourselves of our ego, we understand that we have nothing on our own. To that extent we connect with the Rebbeinu Shel Olam. Lo yanachnu, it's not us, and lo yanachnu, to him we are. That's the idea of bikurim, that's the idea of mechias amalek, recognizing that yesh Hashem b'kirbeinu, that Hashem is in our midst. A guten Shabbos.